Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Objection Crime Chatter. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. I have DFJ back with us tonight. Hey DFJ.
Hey.
We are doing the Idaho 4 case wrap up. This is the final wrap up of the case. We have a few lingering questions, but for the most part, we're going to be wrapping up this case with this last video. DFJ has been kind enough to make some slides to catch you guys up on what's been going on since the sentencing and what was in the evidence drop. Now, we're not going to go over, the loads and loads of stuff that was in there. I would suggest, if you really are interested in those aspects of the case, because it does get a little bit gruesome. The documents I'm going to link below in the description. It's a Google Doc, and you guys can go check that out. But we're going to go over kind of like the main things that were our little Roman empires of things that we thought about, and go over some stuff that we watched on the interview room last night with Billy Little. That's the one that I linked. And so if you didn't go check that out last night, make sure that you check that out. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the title today is Evidence Flop ? Because as the evidence started to come out, we started to see a lot of weird stuff with the evidence that at least led me to believe that perhaps could have been why we went with the plea deal and did not take this to trial. I don't know how DFJ feels about it. Do you think that the evidence that they had was not strong enough for a trial?
Well,
Or what's been shown so far, sorry.
I still think that they could have won at trial, but I think it could have been a lot harder because I definitely think some of these witnesses would have been destroyed on the stand, specifically this detective Payne, who was has never overseen a homicide before, and somehow was in charge of this quadruple homicide. And yeah, kind of looking at some of these documents, I have a lot of questions. And I remember we even showed the one where I had first was going through them. You showed the one where I found how the fridge had gone out, the evidence fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 4 pages of evidence that was destroyed. And they're like, oh, well, it's not the DNA evidence. But you look at it and it's blood swabs and all these things. And that's concerning to me. You're saying all this stuff is affected, but it's not the DNA evidence, but it looks like DNA evidence. So I don't know.
And there was a lot of things that we noticed, that we're going to go over in these slides. So let's just go ahead and get into it. First of all, one of the things that I like about, do you guys see it? Oh, I got to take this off. Sorry. One of the things that I like about, being able to create content and things like that is that we could do things like this and honor the victims. It's Ethan Chapin, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee, I would say Kaylee Gonzalez, and Xana Kernoodle. And, they're known as the Idaho 4, but, we try to say their names when we can. Ethan, Madison, Kaylee, and Xana. And she made this beautiful slide. I really, really love it. It's justice for them. And so when we talk about all this evidence and all this crazy stuff, I do like to take time out to think about them. And we are also going to be featuring Dylan at the end of the show and how you can support Dylan. So let's just go ahead and get right into these slides as we take a little bit of time justice for these beautiful, beautiful kids. Let's set the tone of the aftermath, and we're going to play this small clip from the Megyn Kelly show.
Yeah, and one thing to preface it too is because I felt like we all kind of, at the end of the sentencing felt, after all the impact statements, it kind of felt like a step towards justice. And then right afterwards, they had this press conference that was what? The press conference just blew everyone's mind. And so, yeah, let Megyn take it away. I like how she talks about it.
Okay.
I assume because they wanted to keep the panic level down. But sorry, that's not your job. Your job is to tell the truth. If there was reason to panic, then you need to let the community know that. There was a killer on the loose who just murdered 4 people in the span of 12 minutes.
Oops, sorry, y'all. I was trying to get it to play. Me and DFJ wanted it to play at 1.5 so you could hear sass. Hold on one second.
Yeah, she sounds more sassy.
I assume because they wanted to keep the panic level down. that's not your job. Your job is to tell the truth. If there was reason to panic, then you need to let the community know that. There was a killer on the loose who just murdered 4 people in the span of 12 minutes. And you had no business saying that it was targeted and like suggesting people didn't need to worry. Kids did need to worry. We had no idea in those initial moments and days who the killer was or whether he was going to target somebody else. I get it. You were trying to lower the temperature, but you had no information that the temperature should be lowered. You really didn't. They've never spoken to it. They've never explained themselves. And now here we get this guy saying we said targeted because we knew he had targeted that home. Bullshit. That is not what happened. That's a lie. I'll tell you that right now. That was an obvious lie. He's saying we knew he targeted the house because his car was casing the house, both in the hours before the murders and for weeks and months beforehand. So yeah, he had his eyes on this house, but that's such a ridiculous cop-out. How do you know it was the house, sir? How do you know it wasn't Madison Mogan inside the house? Or for that matter, Xana Kernodle? You don't know. You're just trying to say it was the house to justify that you said targeted in the beginning before you knew anything. And by the way, you didn't know that his house had cased the joint when you said that. You had no idea it was even a white Hyundai Elantra when you were making those statements. So this already is kicking it off on the wrong note. This is not full transparency in my opinion. In my opinion, that cop lied to cover their asses for saying the wrong thing right at the beginning. I'm sorry. I realize the cops ultimately did a good job in finding the truth on this, but I'm not willing to go along with lies when they're staring me in the face. And I think you guys know that about me.
Yeah, exactly. So that she said exactly what I was feeling. It's like, at the end, thank goodness they got him. You have to give the cops credit for that. But it's like there's a lot of like cover your own ass stuff going on, it seems like. Can I answer one question real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Christina said she doesn't call about the 4 fridges broken. So it was one fridge that was broken, but it was 4 pages of evidence that was affected by it. So they said nothing in the freezer. And I have a slide on that, so we'll get to that and you can see everything. But it was just like, it was a weird report where they're like, there was all this evidence that was in this fridge and the alarm went off. It was over 60 degrees. So it was all affected, whatever that means. They don't say it was ruined. They just say affected. And they're like, but none of it's DNA, but it's like all of it's DNA. So I don't understand that. But we'll get to that slide and you'll see what I'm talking about.
That slide because she put it all, she broke it all down there. Christina also says our justice system is so broken. I mean, better than most, but still broken. And so I feel like the same way with the targeting stuff because there was still a killer on the loose. Okay, they didn't know who he was immediately, right? So they knew that there was a car and that they were looking for someone with the car, but they didn't know who it was. How were they certain that he wasn't going to go and hurt someone else or do it again? Because they didn't have him on the radar right away. DFJ, do you remember how long it was or how long they said that, when they knew they had their guy? Was it about like 2 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks? Because it wasn't until
it was almost like
4 weeks, huh?
4 weeks, yeah. And it was almost a month, I remember. And because I remember at one point they stopped posting, asking like the number every single time they'd put like an update. They would put like the number that you could call if you had tips and stuff. And they had the info about the car. They stopped doing that at some point. I want to say it was like almost a month in. And so that's when I was like, oh, they know they have their guy. Now they're just, we're just waiting. So yeah. And so these are just some notes if you didn't want to watch, because the interview room, what was that, last night?
Yes, that was last night.
Yeah, last night. It was kind of long and it's not for everyone. I know like CJ and I love this kind of stuff, like all the details. So I just took some basic overview notes. But what I felt like they were saying was that it was the university kind of got to control the narrative. And so it is really scary when you think about it, because like, all the crime profilers have already said like was a serial killer. Like if he had gotten away with this, yes, other people were at risk. So they had no business saying like, oh, it's just the house.
No one's at risk. Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah. And you were saying, wasn't he going to work still?
Yeah. He was fired from his TA position, but I believe he still went to work. I mean, not to work, went to classes. I believe he still went to classes. And then he had already been fired from his TA position. But yeah, people saw him and said that he talked about the case, or, that he engaged in other people when they were having conversations about the case. And so it's like he was around people. The one thing that I found in this evidence drop that I wasn't aware of was that he never returned to Moscow. But see, a trial, someone could say, well, he did it because there was a murderer on the loose. You know what I mean? Like to play devil's advocate in a trial, what would have been said is, and the same thing with the cell towers. I looked into the evidence and stuff, and the pings from the cell towers, it makes you believe like, oh, he was right by the house, but it was just a range of the cell towers, which could have pinged from him being anywhere else in that vicinity of the house. So not necessarily, because see, I thought they had pinged him like right at the house or right outside the house. And when you look into all this evidence, that's not the case. So I'm like, in a trial, they would have tried to say, they would have brought in, and I think they did have that expert at some point during like the pre-trial stuff where he was talking about the cell data and the inconsistencies and stuff. I believe when they were trying to get the Google data or something, he came up
Well,
as an
and
expert witness.
yeah, and I will say, like, when they offered the plea deal, that was kind of their, waving the white flag, like, even with all of your mess ups, like, I think a jury could still like convict my client of facing the firing squad. So, here, that's why they offered the plea deal, I think. But I think, like, yeah, both sides are pretty
They were
bad.
so quick to take it because they realized, this is a sure thing, and
Yeah.
the other stuff might not. So she says, yes, law enforcement got the guy. They deserve the credit for that. However, there are issues, and that's kind of what we're going to go into and talk about. He says the first press conference said that it was a targeted attack, but now they're saying it wasn't. They said that the phone was wiped. And see, this is the one that's my Roman Empire.
We
But
already know it's not
know
true.
that it's not true because of the Dateline stuff. So in the Dateline documentary, we see that there's screenshots from his phone, all kinds of stuff from his phone. So there was stuff on his phone at some point. So
There was like
his phone was
really,
wiped. Did he
really
phones?
disturbing adult content on his phone.
Like, did he only wipe some stuff, but then he didn't wipe the fact that he was watching YouTube content, especially when he was so adamant about the VPN and stuff and all that. So you're saying he wiped pieces of the phone, but not, evidence? I don't know. It just seems weird. And then why have a investigation, which is still ongoing, and maybe that'll be something that we report on in the future because this is kind of like the wrap up. But if anything comes up in that investigation of the leak
Of the leak, yeah.
to Dateline, that's the thing. It was like they're saying there was nothing on the phones were wiped. Well, then why have an investigation into what was leaked to Dateline? Because see, I thought at first, well, maybe the stuff that was leaked on Dateline wasn't real. But even there's a girl who called in. There's an evidence report that she called in and said her pictures were featured in Dateline. She
Yeah.
recognized it as herself.
Because he had a lot of photos, and what they were saying is like he has a prototype of person he likes, and it very much looked like Maddie, and there was a bunch of pictures like that on his phone. I mean, the only thing I could think, with this press conference is maybe I don't know, maybe they were just in case for whatever reason there's an appeal. There can't be an appeal because then he's already made a plea agreement. So I don't know, but maybe they were just for legal reasons. They were just denying everything. I don't know. It was bizarre. It was just like that whole thing was bizarre. But Billy Little yesterday was giving like just some kind of like, I just thought these were some good bullet points.
Insight. Yeah, he was giving insight because Billy Little, for those who don't know who he is a PI, and you might know him from the Suzanne Morphew cases or the Larry Milletti case, where he did PI work and stuff. But he is also a defense attorney he's legally able to practice for death penalty. And so he has a lot of insight into the mind of is it Ann Taylor, his lawyer? I believe that's her name.
Yeah, Ann Taylor and of BK. What are we calling him? 16. What is his number?
163-214.
163-214.
Which, if y'all don't know,
214.
That's Bryan Kohberger's new name is his inmate number. So 163-214. On Billy Little, they ended up just calling him 214.
Yeah.
But he basically gives insight into what kind of person he basically says, and on her note she says sociopath. His reasoning is not going to make sense to us, but it's likely SA motivated, and we're going to get into a slide on that later. But he goes into what could likely bring this person to do this, and the way that we would know or get more details on it is something called a mitigation report.
And this would be your Roman Empire, because this is what you wanted to see was the psych evaluation.
Yep. And the mitigation report functions for the defense attorney to question him about all these details and stuff. And I believe it's like a psych eval as well, and the defense attorney's there. But this report is given because then they can use that against the death penalty or things like that based on what comes out of it. And so a defendant can say, you know, this is what my childhood upbringing was like. It has literally every single detail of the mind of this person.
And any defendant facing the death penalty, their attorney is going to have a mitigation report. So it has to exist. And the only reason why the prosecution might not have a copy is if it was so damning that they weren't even going to try to use it in trial. Like if it just said like some of like he was like irredeemable, basically. That would maybe be the only reason why it wouldn't be presented. But normally it will have stuff like you were saying, you know, just like when he was a kid, like, you know, someone stole his bike and it made him crazy, you know, just all these little
like
things.
like anything, like was he, because Billy Little says that a lot of these times, you know, it comes from some kind of trauma that they experienced in childhood. And I know me and DFJ talked a little bit about it yesterday, where she says during a certain time in your life, like before age 7, if you experience things, it kind of like shapes the next course of your life.
Yeah.
And so it talks about things like that. And we know there's a psych evaluation somewhere, because if not the mitigation report, some other type of psych eval, because during the press conference, we heard the two officers, the two FBI guys, say that that was not going to be released and was going to remain sealed. They said anything that had to do with his background, as far as any criminal background or anything like that, any background records and psych evaluations would be sealed and not released to the public, which to me, like DFJ just explained, was my Roman Empire, because I'm like,
yeah,
you know, we don't want to learn about this guy through him writing a book, or, you know, what's the girl that wants to interview him, his old teacher or whatever, which to me just creeped me out. I don't know why. I was just like, why are you going to go talk? I mean, I get it. We want to study these people, but isn't the study of these people what led to him kind of like becoming obsessed? And then, you know, so I don't know if like studying them, but at least like letting the public have like full record. I don't know.
well, he didn't do a very good job studying them. Like he didn't pull off a perfect crime, and we'll even get into that.
Yeah, and I just learned that the one of the killers that he was Rogers, that he was studying, that
he didn't.
Oh, he never studied him?
No, so that was well, that turned out to be false. I don't know. I don't even know how that got out there. I think that had something to did that have something to do with like the Papa Rogers thing?
Okay, because I was like, that person studied the same sorority that Maddie and Xana were in, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Okay,
no. So
thanks
they
for
were saying that's
debunking
not
that,
part of it.
because you can go through rabbit holes through this. But she says that Billy Little was saying that there was most certainly an SA element, unlike what the DA said, and that the university, and this is one of the highlights that is in one of our other episodes. I'm going to put all these into a playlist. So if you want to do the 214 playlist, that's probably what I'll name it. You guys can go in there. But in our very first show on this, DFJ mentioned all the connections with the university. You know, the house.
Yeah, the president used to live in the house when he was a kid. In
He
the
used to live in the Idaho 4 house.
122 King Road house as a kid. And I have his parents' divorce records where they have the property and it's like hand drawn. And it says that, yeah, I think his mom or something got the house and that's where he lived.
Yep. And then we also heard about, you know, like the demolition stuff. We talked a little bit about it, and how the president got to write a book. And we're going to get into that slide here in a minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, the university was the only one law enforcement the DA seemed to want to appease. And it was because, and I get it, okay, I do get it. There's people who work there, they make their living there. They talked a lot about how much money the university brings in during the school year. And then in the summer is when they realize like, oh, this is what it would feel like if, you know, when the kids are out, you're not making that much money. There's not as many people around and all that. So they kind of feel it already economically during the summers. And so this happened in November, when the kids were just about to go on Christmas break. And then for them not to come back, it was, they had to appease the community, because the university's their bread and butter type of thing. So on the one hand, I get it. But on the other hand, it's like, this is 4 kids' lives. These are other families that are affected. And the surrounding community who felt, oh, well, it was targeted, I'm safe. I mean, but were they? You know what I mean? Like, could Kohberger have stricken again before they knew who he was?
And most likely, and what like the experts are saying, like Bricado and Burgess are saying, he most likely would have struck again because he's the type that would want to do it better next time.
About what would have happened if he wasn't caught. I get chills too.
I
I get
know.
chills too because it's like, I mean, the fact that he went home, in the evidence, it comes out that he texts one of his classmates or something like, "Oh, I'm barely heading home," but by that time, he was already home or something. So he was already kind of like lying to the classmates, and then they say that he was wearing gloves everywhere he went. He wasn't using his credit cards. He was paying cash for everything. So at that point, he was starting to act like he was a serial killer, but he was, being creepy all over Pullman. And it's like, somebody they think it was him, saw him walking by the river by himself, like, and she met eyes with him. So it's like the wrong person runs into him. Who knows what could have happened? So yeah, let's move into the next one here. So this is what we were talking about, the essay.
It was just like a big issue to me because, like, remember in the change of plea hearing when the DA was like made that special note that was like there was no evidence that there was SA or this was sexually motivated, and everyone's like, wait, what are you talking about? This is like an exact example of something that's sexually motivated, and here's why.
And so I don't know if you want to go ahead and read the notes.
Okay, so basically, yeah, most people think that Maddie was most likely the target, like a pretty, and he had this like prototype of these like blondes that look like her on his phone. And then also the fact that like, he was not very smart. Like he did a lot of mess ups and it was like, and he has this like, has to like prove something. And he very much miscalculated. Like what they're saying is they don't think that he planned for Kaylee. Because remember, Kaylee had graduated already. So she wasn't even supposed to be there. Like she had come back to visit or something. And I don't know about, maybe he thought like Xana would be there and didn't think Ethan would. I don't know.
I think with Xana and Ethan, he probably thought that they'd be asleep because if you remember, he circled the block a bunch of times. And a lot of people think that one of the reasons why he was circling was he was waiting for the lights to go out. And so I believe he might have thought that they were still asleep and maybe Maddie still had her light on. So he might have thought, and this is just me speculating, but I believe he thought Xana and Ethan were gone. Kaylee was not home, obviously.
She was not supposed to be there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me think Murphy wasn't supposed to be there either.
Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about my Murphy theory, and I love how we're always like the yin to the yang. But one of the other things, because she doesn't agree with me with the Murphy thing, but if Maddie was the target, then I don't know. But there's also a theory that Kaylee was the target, and that because she posted on Instagram that she was going to be in town, that then he took a shot or whatever.
This is why they say this is what the theory is why she's not, because like her injuries were more from like the anger. And, like Madison still had her face intact. Kaylee didn't. And, I hate to say that. It's so graphic. But
yeah, and so that's why I warn you guys, if you're going to delve into the evidence. I mean, I'm going to link it here because some people like to see it. And like I did, I went and read it for myself. But it was really gruesome. And I mean, I did,
and
what light on and stuff.
And the other thing is, he had canvassed that house, I don't know, it was like 23 times or something before this happened. But on this night, he put his phone in pilot mode, I guess to try to like, because he's so stupid, he didn't put it in pilot mode the other 23 times he was there. But the night of the murder, he puts his phone in pilot mode. And so what like one theory is that like maybe he had some kind of like, surveillance or some way of like seeing the house, and like that night he didn't or something. So like he didn't know that Kaylee was there, which, you would see that maybe the car's in the driveway, but maybe it's always a full driveway. I don't know.
Yeah. And so one of the other reasons you said here, the manifestation of resentment for rejection turns to rage. And so a lot of people think it was, SA and that Kaylee interrupted. And that's why he like went ham on her, because he was like, you messed up my plan.
Yeah.
And then knives are very personal, up close extension of themselves. And this is also from Billy Little, who has experience with this type. I mean, he was a defense attorney, so he was up close and personal with, people who are, on the defense. So he has very much experience with this, and he says, different types of weapons. You know how they say in a lot of these cases where it's like the wife or the husband, the husband and the wife stuff. It's like strangulation is personal or whatever. So different modes of it is explain different things, and so knives is one of the personal weapons that you use. And then of course he had sadistic adult content on his phone, which is in the evidence, or it was actually not in the evidence, it was in the Dateline documentary.
But it's what we mean. What I say by sadistic, it's like the people are like sleeping or dead. So that's like very specific. So that's another
like
reason.
drunk girls.
Yeah, like people who, like women who like couldn't, like it was forced and they were like sleeping or dead. So which is just another suggestion that like maybe he had planned to do something, hurt Maddie, and then the essay, but then he was interrupted and totally thrown off by Kaylee, and that's why her face is like that, and and then everything got messed up with Xana and Ethan, and
yeah. So let's just continue on. This is the Kabar sheath theory. So that's another reason why it adds to the theory. And as you can see, Billy shows the Kabar, and it's about 7 inches, he said. But look how big that thing is. It's like it's like a mini machete.
Yeah, and these are meant to like.
Every time they said Kabar knife, I don't know why I thought it was like more like a knife. Like I don't know. I thought it was like smaller and more knife shaped.
Yeah, no, these are meant to puncture and to kill. And so the Dr. Gary Bricado was saying, like, it's so interesting that he left the sheath, and he was saying that he wonders if, because see how there's like that belt clip on the end, and that's where they got the DNA transfer. So he's like, he thinks that after he had hurt Maddie, that he went to undo his belt to do like some kind of like either pleasure himself or do something to her, and that's how the sheath fell off. And that's also why it had the thumbprint, because at that point, maybe he took the glove off or whatever. And then he was interrupted, and that's how he ended up leaving the sheath. Yeah. I mean, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. It's scary, but it makes it make more sense to me.
Because you wouldn't think that he would hold the knife in the sheath and then pull the knife out and then have to hold the sheath, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or risk setting it down, right? As much as he planned this all out and everything. And it makes sense that, with the clip on there, that he would have it clipped to himself, would pull it out, and then to be able to put it back in. My only thing is, I wonder if it just happened so fast that, because we believe that it's Xana who says somebody's here and not Kaylee, or at least I do, that she kind of like interrupted him when he was doing that to Kaylee, because the evidence showed, and it's weird that they said that they couldn't figure out whether she went up the stairs or not. Based on her phone usage or whatever. So I don't know, but they're basically saying that at some point she went towards the stairs. They don't know if she went all the way up or if she just got to the bottom of the stairs, and that's where they met. That's according to the evidence that they gathered.
This comment from Lee, I don't know if you've listened to the whole time, where you said that Bill Thompson said there was no sexual element to the murders. That's what I'm saying. I'm disproving it. I'm saying he is wrong. And I'm saying all the reasons why he's wrong. And I mean, just even the nature of using a knife to come in and to hurt people it shows that there's like a sexual element. And he didn't actually, essay the girl. He didn't get a chance to. I mean, if he had wanted to do something further, he didn't even get a chance to, because he was thrown off guard. But even if he didn't, there was still, most likely this is something that is sexually motivated. That's like exactly what this crime is. So
and he must have been so freaked out when he realized it was gone. Bet he felt some emotions then. I'm sure. Because he then it's really weird. He then tries to go and get another Kabar sheath, or I don't know if he was going to buy the sheath separate or whatever.
He bought a new one.
Yeah, he tried to get another one. And then even before he bought it, he like put it in his cart and then deleted it. And then like I don't know, he basically you could tell that he was scrambling. This is something that came on the evidence that It's so funny how me and DFJ think alike, because I had some stuff I wanted to go over, and then she was like, I'm gonna put together some slides. And most of the stuff that was my Roman Empire, she included in the slides. And so I was like, oh my gosh, great minds think alike. So this is one
Yay.
of the pieces of evidence that, to me, okay, so Kabar was turned in. Detective Payne disregarded a Kabar that was turned in because he said it didn't match the wounds. And Billy Little goes in to say that it's hard to match wounds when it's skin, because when it's cut up and all that stuff, and I'm sorry to be so graphic, trigger warning, the skin doesn't, there's not like an imprint like where it would be like for the bone, you know? And so he talks all about that. It says, huge problem. That is not his job. These are very expensive knives, not normal to find a discarded Kabar. So he says, I was notified via email at a found property call reported to LCSO, wherein the RP discovered a Kabar brand knife in some bushes in the city of Genesee, Idaho on the same day. Per call records, the knife was located by a child playing in some trees at the top of Ash Street near Spruce Street. On March 21st, I responded to LCSO to look at the knife. The knife was a Kabar brand knife with a blade approximately 4 inches in length. The knife was in a black Cadex sheath with cordage wrapped around the handle. This knife did not appear to match the wounds inflicted on all 4 victims. Collected it, but they never went back to try and figure it out or anything like that. He was just like, well, I'm just going to disregard it because it doesn't match the wounds.
Yeah, and that's just not his job. What he should have done is, turn it into one of the forensic experts and just let them figure it out. And so it was just, it was just
Never
another
tested
example
or anything like that. So not
Yeah.
that we know of, and this is just the evidence that's coming out. But so far yet, what we know is that, that was never tested or anything. And, they did say that there might have been a second weapon used on Kaylee.
Really? Mhm.
So here we get to DFJ's Roman Empire, the dang fridge. which
Yeah, here,
everyone
this
is
is for
questioning.
Christina.
Oh, for Christina too, the fridge. Oh, hey, just snooping. Yeah, Christina says you could do all the research you want, but imagine being in the moment. Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for everybody who's just hopping in for joining us tonight. We have a pretty good crowd. I love the chat, and I know DFJ does too. We have a pretty cool active chat. So
And
here's the evidence that was the fridge broke, but supposedly the quote DNA evidence was not affected. And so she highlighted it here. It says no DNA extracts were stored in the evidence refrigerator. Those are stored in the evidence freezer. Below is a list of items affected that were being stored. And then you go item 17, blood swab. Item 18, blood swab. So there's
yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
what else would you use a
8.
blood swab for if you're not getting DNA?
Yeah.
I don't
And
know. And look at all, this is all the pages. I thought it was 4 pages, but I was being kind. It's like almost 5 pages.
of evidence that was in there. It says on Friday, January 24th at approximately 7:50 hours, I arrived at the Moscow Police Department to start my shift. And when I reached the door, I could hear an electronic beeping sound. Upon entering, I determined the noise was an alarm sounding from the evidence refrigerator unit. The digital temperature display read 60 degrees. When I left work the day before, Thursday, January 23rd, there was no alarm sounding. The evidence freezer, which is a separate unit, was not affected. So he immediately contacts the supervisor. I transfer the items stored in this refrigerator to our secure outbuilding where other evidence is kept due to the lower temperatures outside. I turned off the heating units inside the storage area and opened the large garage door to allow the inside temperature to drop quickly. The outside temperature was freezing that morning, and within 10 minutes, the inside temperature dropped below 50 degrees, which is the lowest number on the thermostat. All items were transferred by 0800 hours, so within 10 minutes. At approximately 12:30 hours on the same day, Hathaway brought a new 20 cubic feet refrigerator to the outbuilding where he plugged it in and set the temperature. So they basically just opened the door and like let the cold air in and kept it like that until they got a new fridge. An hour or so, I checked the temperature of this fridge and the thermostat read 40 degrees. And that's when he transferred all the items. But what exactly, and you just see like all kinds, I don't know if I'm zoomed in enough, but look at all these blood swabs. And then penile swab. Who did they penile swab? Pubic hair, head hair, wrist swab. Vaginal swab. Those are probably the girls. And then nail clippings, foot swabs. So it seemed like maybe it was cigarette butt stain. So do you guys see how if this was going to go to trial? And this is DFJ's Roman Empire dog hair.
Wait, go back up a little bit to 242. Look, DNA swab. So what do you mean no DNA? No DNA is affected. It says DNA swab. And there's even down there, item 174, DNA blood card.
Yeah.
So
So
obviously not all the DNA was in the freezer. All of this was affected.
radio
So
dial swab, seatbelt, phone. I hadn't Buchal Kohberger. Yeah, what is Buchal?
oh,
What is
it's like I think it's from the mouth.
Oh, and so it was something in out of Kohberger's mouth. It seems like a lot of the stuff pillow swab, maybe from when they went to his apartment, maybe phone swab. But I'm saying in a trial, they could say that this evidence was spoiled, right? It was left out of a fridge for so long or whatever. And I'm not sure what ended up with this evidence because we haven't seen anything yet or anything else in regards to this.
No, and and it is like terrifying. And like DJ Shaw just said, like the defense would have jumped on this so fast. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. And the one thing is that, despite all of this mess up, which is so crazy because there's so much, even then the defense was like, they're like, did a plea deal. Because even then they still thought that he could face the firing squad, even with all of that, so I just think that like they had more damning that was him than wasn't,
Mm-hmm. But I do think, yes, they probably did have enough, but you just never know with jurors. That's the thing. It's like,
Yeah.
they had so much with OJ and then look what happened. So I think that was also part of the reason with the plea deal is that, they did have enough to go ahead and do it. But at the same time, they wanted a sure thing. And Bill Thompson said as much. He was like, this was a sure thing. But now that I'm seeing a lot of the mess ups, it's like, is this why you wanted the sure things? It says, can the families sue the city or whoever handled this? They sometimes do have wrongful death suits, but I believe at least Kaylee Gonzalez's dad, he went on the record and said he didn't want to be in courtrooms when he was on either Enton or Banfield on News Nation. He was like, I don't want to go back into the courtroom. He said, unless, it was the call with Ashley Benfield. He said, unless someone wants to do all the heavy work and then have him come in the end, then he would consider that. But he said he doesn't want to, go through all of that.
I have to give him so much credit because he didn't even want to do the victim impact statement. But then he, when he reached out to the experts and they helped him and he did it. And not only did he do it, but like I've never seen one like that powerful where like they take the podium and move it. And he totally like set the tone for the rest of that sentencing hearing. And, good for him. And I know maybe he doesn't want to be in courtrooms anymore. And I totally understand that. And most of the time it's really hard to go up against the city, but he is trying to get a law passed and that will help with these like gag orders. Cause it kind of, was not good for them that there was this really broad gag order for like everyone involved except the families. So the families didn't even get to know anything.
And I think that pulling Dylan and Bethany, and I get it. They just had a traumatic experience. The guy's still on the loose. They don't want to bring attention, but they should have put him into protective custody, but still included them and said, what happened. And I was talking to a friend about it. I was like, it should have always been the Idaho 6. It should have never been the Idaho 4. It should have been the Idaho 6 with 2 surviving, roommates, because it seemed like it was always the Idaho 4. And then them two started to get like all the conspiracies around them and all this stuff. And I felt like if there was no gag order and there was more information given at the time, like I get that some stuff has to be held close to the vest, but if they would have given out more info, those poor girls, like what they had to go through, it wasn't right. I felt like the gag order made it so much worse for those girls.
There's a comment here. I mean, I don't know if
which one
you want to address it, but Rosewild said that there's like a mass shooting.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say prayers up to New York. Yeah, right before we got on the stream, I believe that he's unalived himself by now. If anybody knows, right before I got on the stream, I thought I heard that he had unalived himself. But yeah, there was a mass shooting in New York City. And then she's talking about another one that happened in Reno earlier. Floor 33, Reno was earlier. So prayers up to New York City. I don't know what's going on. It's in Manhattan. But I do believe that it's over. The last I heard, there was 11 injuries. I didn't hear of any deaths. So hopefully, there wasn't. But I did see a picture of the guy who had like some kind of assault rifle on him. So we'll definitely have to stay. Yeah, it is
Roosevelt
over.
said it's
So
over.
it's over, Roses. Okay, cool.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you,
prayers up
Nancy.
to them as we continue here.
And the shooter's not alive anymore. Well, that's always good.
Yeah, it happened right before we got on the stream. Like it was breaking right as I was setting it all up. So quad homicide is going to be a death penalty case. Why are they putting an inexperienced guy to oversee it? He will get ripped to shreds on the stand. This puts the entire case at risk. And if you read it, it says, Sergeant Gunderson said his team had cleared the residence and secured the scene. He said they identified a group of college-age individuals outside the residence and had started interviewing. I called Chief Fry and Captain Lanier and Captain Dallinger to let them know about the homicide. I called Detective Sergeant Lawrence to tell him about the homicide and asked him to call in detectives. Sergeant Lawrence said he would call in Sergeant Blaker and Corporal Payne to assist as well because they were slated to rotate into detectives soon. So they weren't detectives yet. They were slated to rotate into detectives soon. Sergeant Lawrence said he was also calling the ISP to ask the Region 2 detectives to process the crime scene.
Yeah, so for a quad homicide, I think you should have someone a little bit more experienced because I mean it's gonna a quad homicide. I mean even a regular homicide can be a death penalty case, but like a quad homicide, it's gonna be death penalty. In a death penalty case, you put your top people on it. Like this is not messing around. And they're like, oh, let's just put these new guys on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it that they hadn't had anything like this ever happen, so maybe they didn't have people on deck like that because the crime wasn't up. But again, the next slide is going to show some of the major mishaps. Just to finish this, it says, I called the U of I Dean of Students. So right away, they got the university involved, which, okay, I get it. They were college students, but I've never heard of that. Like if there was maybe because it was so close to campus, basically kind of across the street, and they had to let, the campus security know so they could send out alerts and stuff. Yeah, because the resident was near the U of I and the victims appear to be college students. But to me, I don't know, that sounded a little fishy, like right away you're going to call the U of I. Because they could have just sent out an alert from the Moscow police, like the city alert.
Yeah.
When I arrived on scene, I met with Gunderson and Lawrence on the street in front of the residence. We briefly discussed the scene, and I was given the names of the 4 individuals. Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee. I was also told 2 of the witnesses outside, Dylan and Bethany, were roommates and were apparently inside the residence when it occurred. He told me the dog was taken out of Kaylee Gonzalez's room and transported to the Humane Society for safekeeping. So before the detectives even got there.
And you know what's annoying to me? It's like there's 2 surviving roommates. You couldn't ask them like, hey, do you know whose dog was this? Like, is there someone we can call to get him? Instead, they're like, okay, well, we're going to take the dog to the Humane Society. They had that was an action they took. I couldn't even believe that. I was like,
and they never checked the dog.
No, they never checked the dog.
Check the dog, nor did they take pictures of the dog. The dog is just pictured when they were taking pictures of the room in one shot, but they never took pictures of the dog or thought. And as I'm not even a detective, and I would be like right away, like, could the person have left any fibers on the dog, like petting it, or could he have anything on his teeth? Like, did he try to bite the burglar or something? Like nothing. He never got checked.
1,000%, 1,000%, especially like that, the golden doodle dog like that. I mean, they're very they're very friendly. I mean, even if it wasn't like a guard dog, like it knows when something bad's going on and it's either going to lick him or bite him. I don't imagine it would just freeze.
And then he was just like, oh, I didn't really see any blood on him or anything. Like he had messed up the crime scene or anything. And yeah, but you didn't know, like he could have licked it off himself. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. Like, there could have still been. I mean, what's that little black light they use? Y'all could have. What is it? Lumen.
Yeah, the luminol. They actually did use
luminol.
Yeah.
Did they luminal the dog? Like, come on
No,
now.
not the dog. But I feel like with the dog, there was just like, that was such a missed opportunity. I mean,
It
you
was.
at least take the hairs, because we saw that there was a bunch of other hairs that they found on him. So at least it would have shown, like, why would, prove that he had, like, if he had Murphy's hair on him, that would immediately show like he was some in proximity of Murphy, and Murphy is mostly in the house. So it would show that he was in the house. So it's just like, just stupid little mistakes they made like that, like blow my mind.
And this
This
one,
one's so
this
stupid.
is the biggest. And Billy Little did not let him live it down. Law enforcement went in and out of the same entrance as the suspect. No shoe log, no DNA log, and it was sealed 6 hours later.
Yeah. So what they were saying, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so like, there's more than one entrance into that house, but they were going in and out of the same one that they determined that Kohberger, or I don't want to say his name, sorry, what is he, 214?
214,
That 214 had exited. And when that happens, like you want to be very careful going in and out of that same area. You want to avoid it if you can, but if not, you want a clear log, and you want everyone's shoes, like what shoes they're wearing, and the size of it, so that nothing gets mixed up when the forensics comes after. And you want the DNA of everyone too that goes in and out there. They had none of that. So it was just bizarre.
Yeah, they traumatized the dog more by putting it away. And then Khaleesi says the university is sus, super sus, Khaleesi. Yeah, everybody has always kind of suspected the university of, and again, I'm going to say it like I said in the beginning, I get it. It was their bread and butter, but at the same time, these are real people, and we're going to get into the next slide, which is something that really bothered me about how he was able to write a book, the president. So yeah, the no shoe log was just, you're going out of that entrance. That should have been blocked off. Another thing that he mentioned was all the kids at the bottom of the driveway, right?
Yeah, it was just, they did not secure the scene. They didn't keep, and you want it really secure. I mean, because people are going to come and be able to determine like all the different shoes like went in and out, and the time, from like the fresher prints to less, not as fresh
It was full of
prints.
snow. If y'all remember, it was wintertime.
Yes.
So this is one that he's going to do an episode on this. You guys, I'll link this video at the bottom. I'm not sure. Does he find the glove right away on here?
Yeah. So it should start at 46:30, but it was weird. I was watching this one live, and well, I think it was he had taped it before and then was playing it, but he found a glove, and he has the exact time. He has the time and date of when this was, because in the police report, they try to change it. They didn't even say that he turned in the glove to them. Yeah. And then they were trying to say it happened at like a different date. And he's like, no, because then Fox News reported it after I told them about it, or something like that. Like, so Chris has the timeline, and he's going to do a whole video on it because now he's mad about it.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that, because, and that goes to show that some of these reports, I mean, we have reports, because I forget that everybody else hasn't read all of the reports. We have reports where they messed up Kaylee and Xana's name. They said Kaylee was sleeping next to Ethan and Xana was upstairs. And it happened multiple times in the reports. And at first I thought, oh, okay, maybe it was Hunter who gave him the information and didn't know who was who. But no, it was just, they just later on in a different report say that he messed up the names when filling out the report. So
yeah,
let's play this where he finds the glove, because this is pretty interesting.
All right. So this is the old homicide guy in me. I actually found a glove.
And this is his wife, Karen.
And
They're
turned
so
it.
cute.
I pointed it out
Y'all
to
need to
the
go follow
officer who was
interview room.
there securing the scene, and they came and they collected it. So this has been, a very heavy scene as a whole. But if you'll notice underneath that, those leaves there in the snow, you'll see here, I'll point it out for you, that I discovered this glove, and fortunately they collected it. And the officer
And it should be noted, you could see this standing on the public road. This wasn't, nobody crossed any lines, so you could just visibly see it right from the road.
Yeah, and so a couple thoughts come to mind. I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing, right? I'm saying, fortunately, it's still on the other side of the tape, And so they still had control of that scene. The officer that was there, obviously they didn't know about it because he came over and photographed it. And he talked to the head evidence tech. And immediately, later they'd come out and got it. So here's the question. Is this from the night? Is it random? I.e., somebody missed the trash can and they were walking by and they threw it in, missed the trash can? Is the suspect taunting the authorities by, placing something like this, hypothetically? Either way, there's a glove, and it was collected after I brought it to their attention, and we had a great chat, and the guy asked me, some things, and I, shared essentially my bio, and he went, "Thank you." I said, "There you go."
So there you guys have it. I mean, it took Chris, who he was a prosecutor prior to this, so it took him, to be there to find that glove. And then
he's really good at this stuff. Like Billy was even saying, like, he's been at crime scenes with Chris before, and like Chris will he has like an eagle eye, and he's like found like casings, like, like bullet casings out of nowhere that like they had missed before. He's like, isn't that what that is? And he's really good at that stuff. And he was with his wife, and they were out there, to see the scene. And so like, it wasn't like because someone was like, oh, he must have planted it. And they're like, no, they didn't even cross this. They didn't even cross the tape. They were just like walking around where the public was walking.
Give me 1 second, because I think it froze up there. So
I think that's it for that one.
Yeah, let me bring it back on the stream, because it's frozen, so I can't.
This is, it was not tested. No, I think it was tested.
Yeah, the thing is that the report, and he's gonna do a video on it. It says that the tech guy that he talked to, it says he found it, so it doesn't have the right information on there. So that's the whole thing.
The chain of custody is kind of messed up.
Yes, the chain of custody, and so if that can be messed up, what else can be? Let me get into the next slide real quick. I don't know, for some reason they're not wanting to. Okay, there we go. Thanks everyone who's still here. We might go a little bit past the hour, but we're almost through here. The power of corruption of universities. I
think you skipped one.
I think I'm going to circle back to that one.
Okay.
I wanted to get to this one first. The power and corruption of universities. University of Idaho president book on handling crisis despite the gag order. So did you want to set this one up?
Yeah. So this is the president who I don't like of the university. I have a lot of reasons I don't like him. And one of them, he was the one who decided to bulldoze the house. And the other is that, so he wrote a book. It's the University President's Crisis Handbook, based on how he handled this quad homicide on campus. And like, he wrote it during the gag order, and he had, he was privy to a bunch of information that the victims' families were not even privy to. And like, so he was kind of like profiting off of this. And I don't know, it just like leaves like a really bad taste in my mouth, because like, they weren't very helpful to the families. In fact, I would say he was arguably not helpful by destroying the crime scene before the trial.
Yeah, they bulldozed the house down and then, wrote this book. And then we have the other university that Bryan Kohberger went to. And one day, I know that I'm putting this to rest, but I do want to do a conspiracy episode on the WSU, U of I. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it one day when I put it all together. But because there's something going on there. They both had like different programs where they were getting grants for different things. And anyways, no tinfoil hat, allegedly. This isn't the episode for that. But WSU,
no, he was messed up before that. He was messed up before that.
The WSU FOIA request, which Billy Little was telling Chris, like, you could sue for that. And then he pleaded with the media, saying the media needs to get together and, pool for this FOIA request if, legal stuff's going to have to come up. But here's it is from the transcript. He says, Washington State University, apparently the chief who handled this, went over there, and Laura is a very reliable source. But you know what? They told us we have a FOIA into them for documents. It's going to take 9 months to a year to release the documents to us. And then Billy says, yeah, well, you could take them to court, sue them for that. That's not acceptable. It's going to take money and a lawyer. So yeah, I would say usually stuff like that, news, at least in the old days, the news organizations would take that on because, they have legal and all that stuff. So, yeah, why is it taking so long for those documents? And then someone else did a FOIA into the FBI and we're also told that it could take up to a year. So,
well, and that happens. I mean, I did the FOIA request for like Peanut the squirrel. I was one of the first ones. I was the first one who finally got it. And that was back in last November. And I just got it. It was sometime like a few months ago. And I got it before like the owner of Peanut the squirrel. Before him, I got it before his lawyers. Like I've given them documents from it. It's crazy. And I'm still waiting on some. And in fact, I was supposed to get another one. And this happened again last November. I was supposed to get another one from the New York Department of Health to figure out, because one of them had to determine where the rabies testing was going to be or something. Anyways, they told me I would get it in July, which is still a long time. That's like over 8 months, And then they just sent me a note saying that it would be delayed again until like September. And I'm just like, oh my God, almost a year. And
I'm going to be featuring it on the show tomorrow morning. We're talking about Spencer Pratt and the California fires, but I'm also talking about Blake Lively. It's going to be called We Didn't Start the Fire. It's Gavin Newsom and Blake Lively, but I'm going to be talking about Steve Sarowitz, and you're still waiting on either someone to pick up.
That's a whole different one, because I could get that today if I lived over at that courthouse. That's a courthouse thing, or a lot of these, which I hate, but a lot of these courthouses are like, oh, it's in person or mail only. And there's some of them like are like Santa Clara County is always on a delay. They're like on a 6-month delay. But yeah, I'm
still waiting for that in the mail.
Yeah, unless anyone knows anyone in the Chicago area or the suburbs, let me know. I will pay for them to go to this courthouse and get these documents for me.
Yeah, and that's for the Steve Sarowitz, which is Justin Baldoni's business partner, who also was a part of Wayfair, and they're being sued by Blake Lively, but he had an arson threat, and the guy ended up getting arrested. And this all happened in Chicago. It was like a suburb off of Chicago, and so those are the docs that she wants. But here's the text that I skipped over of Kaylee's mom, who got a death threat during the sentencing hearing.
Wait, can I just wrap that up real quick? Because it's going to bother my brain. The whole point of saying the FOIA thing was I was just trying to say, like, some of the ones that I asked for like, I mean, I got the main Peanut ones, like actually the most important ones I got. It still took like 8 months, and that's for a squirrel, and these other ones, like, they're probably nothing. It's just like from the Department of Health, and that's taken almost a year. So I'm just saying, I do understand, like, if you're going to do a FOIA request, the FBI, good luck with that. I mean, that's for a homicide. I bet that would be like over a year, probably like 2 years.
Yeah. So it could just be that it takes that long, but I mean, I would think right there at WSU, they could go pick it up. Like, why is it taking so long? Maybe because of the redactions. That's all I can assume. So yeah, let's play devil's advocate. The other side of the coin is, look at Peanut the squirrel. That's a squirrel, and it's taking forever.
Yeah, but it took me like over 8 months, and to this day, him and his attorney still ask me for copies of certain documents. So
Kaylee's mom got a death threat. It said, sitting near you in a court and watching you is a joke. You know that Bryan's innocent. Making threats to Bryan about getting RA'd in prison was very silly. I am in contact with a lot of serial killers, including BTK, and I've been put in contact with the wannabe serial killer who is in Moscow, and I have given him your address.
That was during the sentencing hearing. She got this text message.
And it was so scary. They had to call over the bailiff and everything. And so to have to go through all this and then get something like this, and this is why, the internet is not always like your friend. Sure, you can raise money and do all kinds of things, have a community. They have the Gonzalez family page on Facebook. If you guys don't follow it there, that's where I get most of my updates on the family. But then you also have these crazies.
Like, I mean, and there's people who like really believe that Kohberger is innocent for some reason. And I do actually kind of understand due to the gag order and due to the fact that there was no trial, but like this is scary, crazy to
Yeah.
me.
And so we are wrapping up this case tonight, but if anything else does come up, we do the legal wrap up on Thursdays of all, different types of crimes and different legal cases that we're not like covering in full or anything. And so this might be something that we circle back around if this comes out of who was charged for that, because they believe that it was someone in another state, and they do know who did it. So if
You know who did it?
yes, they do. They found out who it was. Bryan Enton did a show. If y'all don't follow Bryan Enton,
No,
I'm gonna plug him in every show.
I watched his whole thing, and I thought they said they didn't know.
No, they said they did find him, and he's in another state.
I did hear that they think it's in another state, but I thought they said, yeah, there's no arrests.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I don't know if an arrest has been made or what, but I think they know who it is.
Oh, I cannot
unless
wait
I just listened to it wrong. Me and my 2x speed.
No, I know, because I was listening to it also on 2x speed, because I was like, wait, they caught him? No, they didn't. Because then right away he jumped into talking about when he went to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so maybe I just missed it. But let's just stay tuned on that. We at least know that it was a person in another state.
Well, we at least, and we know that they're investigating it. So that's,
Mhm.
at least they're doing that.
Oh yeah. So it says, I don't know what great idea, CJ, but hey, I do have some great ideas. I don't know what you're talking about there, but yes, I agree. Awesome. I don't know, what was I saying? That was awesome. Okay. Let's just go
that
to
follow up, I think.
following up. Yeah. Because we're kind of trying to wrap 214, not giving him any more times. Dr. Gary Brigado, thank you so much, DFJ, for introducing me to him. A great man if you want to dig into the mind of evil. And so here are some recommendations. I'm going to link them. DFJ, if you can just send me, well, I guess I could click them and get the links, but the links, I'll put them at the bottom. I'll plug Dr. Brigado
And
at
it's
the
funny because
bottom.
like the first one is Vinny, from
Vinny
from Court
Politan from
Court TV, and it's on his like YouTube channel. It's the very first interview he's ever had on his YouTube stream. So I mean that was interesting and cool. But like Bricado, if you want to really learn more about the mind of like a serial killer, like there's no one better than I think Bricado, and he will answer so many questions and he has so much patience. So yeah, the one on the left is with Vinny, and it's like a little more formal, even though it's his first interview. And then the second one that is on this like channel, The Lab, and it's a lot less formal. I mean, they just let anyone call in, so you get some like wackos calling in, talking about all different things. But he's pretty good. He still learns something. So whatever's more your style, but it's just something.
Yeah, and this one says he's not human, so don't project human onto him.
Yeah.
And so if y'all missed our talk on faith yesterday, our Sunday True Crime Faith Talk, we talked a lot about that and how he's not human. The way Olivia said that he wasn't human, Ashley Banfield, a lot of people have said that about him. If, it's evil that, you can feel when you see him and things like that. And then this first video is on why it was SA motivated. So here's the beautiful four. Justice for Buddy, P.S. Yes, not only justice for Ethan, Madison, Kaylee, and Zaina, but also justice for Buddy. And this is one where me and DFJ disagreed on the Murphy, but I kind of just wanted to talk about it because I wanted to show this picture of Kaylee and Murphy because it's just so sweet. And, rest in peace, her poor little soul. And, Murphy's with his dad, her ex. So hopefully he's living a good life. He had an Instagram channel, but I haven't gone to it in a while to check out what he's been up to. But there was this article that came out a couple days ago. It said, did Bryan Kohberger win over Kaylee Gonzalez's dog before the Idaho murders, letting him slip into the house undetected? So DFJ is saying no. Some of the evidence that came out was that there was a man behind in the woods, or they thought there was someone, because Murphy would run out to the back of the woods and then not come back. And at one point, it says Funk, who is Bethany, told police that Gonzalez described the incident to her by saying an unknown male was above their house to the south who was staring at her when she took Murphy out to go potty. Around the same time, Murphy began to sometimes suddenly run off into the same wooded areas above the house. That information came from the two friends. of the victims who spoke with police, they later said Murphy ran up the bushes behind the house on several occasions and would not return when called. That friend then directed officers to another individual who said that at a Halloween party shortly before the murders, while the group was on the back patio, Murphy began to run into the wood lines behind the house and then not come back. That time, the group also heard noises, similar to what it would sound if someone was moving through the woods on foot. She then cited another example when 2 weeks before the murders, Murphy once again displayed similar behavior of running into the woods and not coming back when called. She told police that both she and Gonzalez were concerned about someone being behind the house. Then the most concerning incident, and this is the one where I was like, I don't know, was he befriending him? Like, did he open the sliding door for him? And I don't know, because he came in through the rear door himself. 214 did. So it says the most concerning incident is when the Gonzaleses, or when she and Gonzalez arrived at the home to find the rear side door standing open and Murphy was missing. He was eventually located, but why he developed this habit remains a mystery. However, a neighbor of the girls also noticed something concerning around that time, telling police that she spotted a man who looked nervous walking through the backyard and then returning along that same route. The man allegedly ignored her as she informed him he was trespassing on private property. She told police, and this is an evidence that just dropped, that the man had curly hair with a large nose and was 214, adding that she was 92% certain of this fact. If it were 214 who had been sneaking around and drawing Murphy's attention, it could explain how he managed to slip undetected into the home without an excited or a protective dog loudly barking. Instead, the interviews and police reports suggest that Murphy did not start to bark until after 214 left the scene. Did 214 spare Murphy's life?
No.
Police found the dog with the bodies and all that, and then he was sent to the Humane Society. So DFJ is saying no. What does the chat think?
I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why. Okay, first of all, for like a crime like this, I mean, he was staking out the house. I think most of the time they're not going to choose a house where like there's a dog. He's not going to take that time to. For Kaylee was graduated. I mean, she was like gone, right? So, like, I don't know. She wasn't even supposed to be there. So it doesn't really make sense to me. He was caught off guard
She
by
was
her.
there. She had just left. She was there in the weeks before. So this was like 2 weeks before she had just left. So it wasn't like she had moved out and had been gone for, a long time.
Yeah, but I think if she had left, he somehow knew she had left, I think, because that makes sense also like for the timing, because I think he was caught off guard by Kaylee. And if Kaylee had left, that means her dog leaves, So I don't think he was wasting time being nice to a dog. No, I definitely don't think so. 1, 2, animals are so smart. It's so underrated, but they can sense evil. And I swear to God, I always say, like, my pets are like a litmus test. Like, some of them are a little better than others, but like they know, like I can tell they know if a person's good or not. And and they always know before I do. So
do you think he was just chasing some squirrel over there and it was?
I definitely think.
What about the evidence of the neighbor who said she saw Kohberger in her property?
I do believe Kohberger was walking around. I do think.
214, sorry.
Right. You're right. 214. I think he was definitely stalking the house, and I'm sure he definitely walked around there. But I do not think he was trying to be nice to this dog, and it just doesn't even make sense. It's like,
okay, well, we're gonna go with Murphy could have sensed it, and it wasn't. He was chasing a squirrel.
I mean, yeah.
That one. DFJ convinced me. The dogs can sense.
Evil.
Maybe that's why he was hiding. Maybe that's why the dog was hiding. He saw evil and went and hid under the, because when they first found him, either he was on the bed and then he kind of like cowered under the desk. So that would make sense why he wasn't like anywhere near anything if, he could sense it too. That actually does make sense. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here because we're going over the time, but look how cute these two. Like, I just can't with that picture.
Yeah, and he's actually doing really good. Apparently, he has an Instagram account, and he's with what's his name, Jack. And so, thank goodness. And like, I hope that they change protocol at that police station. Like, you don't just like find an animal and take it right away to the Humane Society. You can at least like afford to make a phone call to like a relative to come get it.
Yeah, and so one last thing before we go, I don't have an outro video today, but I do have an ask. We do have support Dylan's healing journey. There was a GoFundMe started for Dylan. I linked it in the description. If it compels you to help this young girl in her healing journey, our sweet niece is Dylan Mortensen, the eyewitness and surviving roommate from the University of Idaho murders case. It's been 2.5 years of Dylan silently and bravely putting one foot in front of the other, cooperating with law enforcement, processing, and healing from the unimaginable. Dylan has had to learn how to live in her new reality, forever lacking peace, security, safety, and her closest friends. We know a lot of people have asked how they can help, so we have created this to support Dylan in building back her life and her future. A life that will require relocation, intensive long-term trauma therapy, and extra security and privacy measures. If you aren't able to support her but still want to help, we'd sincerely appreciate sharing this to spread the word. And the link is below if you guys want to share it to socials. It's in the description. Social
This
media has
morning-
been, what's that?
This morning it was at 8,000 and now it's like 28,000. That's really good. And I do
Mhm.
have a clip for you if you want. I didn't realize on that other slide before this. Well, I don't know if you want to do an outro, but I realized I had clipped the part of where they said that he's not human.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll play that at the end. Social media has been unkind, unsupportive, and very negative towards Dylan, but we're hoping social media can also show her what the positive and loving side of people in the world that care about this brave girl can do. Thank you for helping us to fill Dylan's world with support, love, and light after such a dark time. We really appreciate it, Kate and Ellie. And so, yeah, if you guys want to go support her, the link is in the description. And if you want to share it to socials, you know, she went through a lot. You guys saw her at the victim impact statements. She was brave enough to go and tell her story, and you know, she was breaking down and all that stuff. So really sad. Like I said, I always thought it should have been the Idaho 6, and they shouldn't have been, you know, put apart from that group. And you see her the little angel wings she got in memory of Ethan, Xana, and Kaylee and Maddie.
And Missy's comment, she said, so many lives full of promise just gone. I hope the families and friends find some sort of peace. And, you know, it was really kind of nice after when Bryan's interview with Olivia afterwards, where she did say, like, her and her family, like, they went home. And normally when they went home after these hearings, like, they would be licking their wounds and would be sad. And it was like they felt okay that day. It, you know, they're still, like, obviously sad, but, like, it felt like a little bit of a relief, like, off them. So I do think that they're on the path of healing.
Yeah. Tomorrow night, you guys, our show is going to be about Crystal McCrory. I don't know if I said that right, but we're going to be exploring why her death was not a suicide. And I kind of wanted to see how we could reach out to Billy Little and the Cold Case Foundation on this. I don't know if you still have Crystal's info, if she's already done that, but I was watching Billy Little yesterday and he was saying, you know, plugging the Cold Case Foundation. And I think that'd be a great place for her to take this if she hasn't yet. So I don't know if we're in communication, so we'll talk offline to see what we can do
That's
for her.
a really good idea. We should definitely do that.
One of the things that I do want to do for her is to spread her sister's story. So this was someone who reached out to DFJ. And so tomorrow we're going to, you know, go deep dive into the case and see what we can do for her and at least get the word out on this case. Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting case. I kind of deep dived a little bit and there's a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of things to question. So DFJ had put, it's time for LDAA justice to investigate the murder of Crystal McCrory. And so if you guys know about the Ellen Greenberg case, this is, you know, a little similar to that where we need more eyeballs on this and, you know, we need a second set of eyes to look at it again because things aren't adding up. The math isn't mathing. So
nope, not at all.
Let me go ahead and go back to the outro video. Thank you guys so much for your support. We had a really, really good crowd, a good active chat.
And I do think at the end of the day, like, at least it's, you know, there is justice. He's gone. Like, that inmate's going to rot forever in wherever he is. And you know, and I think, yeah, all the families now can know that they're safe and start healing.
Yeah. And so this is going to be the wrap up of the case. I will make a playlist. So if you guys want to catch up from, you know, the sentencing, we did a live stream to support. And so you guys can catch all the victim impact statements there. And then we did an after the fact of the sentencing. And we also did a true crime faith talk for those who, you know, were struggling with forgiveness and, you know, what it meant in the aspect of facing evil and murder and stuff. So we did an episode. So it's 4 episodes altogether, including this one. And any other updates we'll probably do on the legal wrap up and not dedicate any more time to inmate 214. So we're going to play this clip on the outro. And again, I appreciate y'all. See y'all tomorrow night.
Too. I think that projecting significance into his head nodding, like as if it means some human thing, is sort of reading into it too much. My guess is he's dead in the soul. You might as well be talking to him about, like, you know, the book that he spilled sauce on. Oh, what a shame. Like, he doesn't, there's no, you're don't try to imagine him having these deep human feelings, like he's going to go to his cell and tear up thinking about the killings, you know, he's going to, no. I think that is a problem where, and this is exactly why people have trouble understanding these kind of motives.
All right, y'all. Have a good night.
Good night. That was a happy clip to